Fibrosis Foundation. We thank each bachelor and bachelorette have committed a lot of time into building these wonderful day packages and raising money to find a cure for cystic fibrosis. We thank all of our sponsors, patrons, and guests who helped make this evening possible. We're here to have fun, but we are also here for a very serious reason: to give a breath of life to those who suffer with cystic fibrosis. Some of you here tonight are longtime supporters, but many of you may not be familiar with cystic fibrosis. For those of you who aren't familiar with cystic fibrosis, it is a genetic disease. It causes thick, sticky mucus to build up in the lungs and digestive tract. This thick mucus is a breeding ground for bacteria. Most CF patients face a lifetime of lung infection as they slowly experience a loss of lung function. It is my hope that because of your generous donations here tonight, we will be able to finance critical research, and we will indeed have a celebration one day soon, as CF stands for Cure Found. Sorry. My name is Katie Parker, and I was a 2012 Bachelorette. In addition to my efforts with Guys&Dolls, I have been active with the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation for many years. Unlike many of you who have become involved for selfless reasons, I myself am involved for a very selfish reason. CF has impacted my family on a very personal level, and what you are doing here tonight will impact my family in a very positive way. Sorry. I would like to share with you my story to help you understand what you are doing here positively affects more than 30,000 American families daily. I was 3 years old when my little brother Dylan was born. I was promoted to a big sister when my new brother came home from the hospital. It only took a few months to determine that something wasn't quite right. His first Halloween was spent in a hospital, and after a week of uncertainty about why he had such a deep cough, he was diagnosed with cystic fibrosis. Just 21 years ago, there was not a lot known about CF. The life expectancy was a mere 25 years of age. And although the foundation was busy working, a cure was nowhere in sight. My parents went through a living hell as they adjusted to their new reality. I watched each day as Dylan was fed a pile of medication, had breathing treatments, and physical therapy. During the therapy, my parents would beat on Dylan's chest to loosen the mucus in his lungs. We called these his pity pats, as a way of making the process seem more normal. As Dylan was a feisty child, my parents would give him his pity pats as he fell asleep at night. The sound of Dylan getting his pity pats soon became my nighttime lullaby, a steady rhythm which rocked me to sleep at night. Dylan spent his first 3 Halloweens trick-or-treating in the hospital, hooked up to an IV to treat his lung infections. I spent a lot of time with my cousins as my parents spent their days and nights in various hospital rooms taking care of Dylan and helping the hospital with his breathing treatment, physical therapy, and making sure he got the right medications at the right time. During his younger years, Dylan was hospitalized many times and went through many surgeries. I was often scared and concerned for my little brother's health as I learned more about his disease and the lack of a cure. As a parent, you always try to do what's best for your children. But what if you have to choose between the 2 children? My parents spent a lot of time with Dylan, and as a young child, I didn't understand why. I often felt like the neglected child. Talking to my grandmother as a young girl, I said to her, I wish I had CF, so someone would pay attention to me. It wasn't until about middle school that I started to truly understand what cystic fibrosis really was and how it affected the bodies and lungs of those who suffered from it. I couldn't understand how someone so normal on the outside could be suffering so much on the inside. I no longer believed myself to be the neglected child. In fact, I was the lucky child. But why was I the lucky one? It became clear to me in science class why Dylan had CF. In order to have CF, both parents have to be a carrier of the disease, and only then is there a 25% chance of having a child with CF. About 1 in every 30 people unknowingly carry the defective CF gene. My parents always thought it was in Dylan's best interest to treat him as if he were a healthy child. There were no excuses for not living life with gusto. When Dylan asked my parents why he had to take all these medications and do these treatments and go to the doctor in Chapel Hill every 3 months, the response was always, to keep you healthy. Dylan never questioned their answer. In Dylan's 8th grade class, he was asked to pick a disease to do a research project and presentation on. Naturally, Dylan wanted to further explore and report on his own disease. I will never forget the day that Dylan was upstairs doing research on his disease. He walked down the stairs with a piece of paper in his hand and a tear in his eye. He looked at my mother and me and said, "Did you know the life expectancy of a person with CF is only 32? She simply took him in her arms and said that is why it is so important for you to do your medication and your treatment in order to keep yourself healthy, and why your dad and I worked so hard to raise money to fund CF research." Everyone in life has a hero, someone they look up to and aspire to be like. For some, it's an actor, a movie star, an athlete, a community leader, or maybe a parent or teacher. For me, it was my little brother. He has never let his disease be an excuse. He has achieved amazing things in his life. Dylan was awarded the highest honor in the Boy Scouts at age 16, becoming an Eagle Scout. For 2 years in high school, he was captain of his wrestling team. He won over 100 matches in his high school career. After graduation from high school, the next step, college. For kids with CF, college is different. Health comes first, then studies, then all the rest. Dylan was excited about heading off to Western Carolina for his freshman year. During a checkup at Chapel Hill a week before college would start, he learned of another lung infection, one which needed to be treated with IV antibiotics. Not only an IV, but he was going to have to administer the medication himself. This was the first time in 10 years that Dylan would have to have an IV, and the first time he'd have to administer it himself. Imagine starting college with an IV in your arm, unable to hide your disease. Still during that time, Dylan met lots of new friends and his future fraternity brothers. There has never been an obstacle that Dylan has not been able to overcome. His strength and his courage in everything he does amazes me. Our family has been fighting since day one. For 21 years, we've been doing whatever it takes to see some progress. Black ties, barbecues, walks, runs, golf, tennis, hikes, you name it. In January 2012, Vertex announced the approval of Platico. This new drug targets the cells and corrects the defects in approximately 4% of patients with CF. Essentially, a cure. Unfortunately, it isn't effective for Dylan's defect. Through continued research and a combination of drugs using Platico and VX-809, there is a phase 3 trial going on right now for patients with Dylan's defect. The exciting news for our family is Dylan is a participant in this phase 3 trial. And if it is successful, it will help at least another 50% of patients who suffer with this disease. We are so close to a cure. We cannot give up now. It is more important than ever to fund research, not only for people like Dylan, but for future generations. Future generations including my cousin's child, Bryson, who was born in March 2012 and diagnosed shortly after with cystic fibrosis. During a visit to Western Carolina to see Dylan, I happened to notice the background picture on his phone. It was a picture of Bryson. When he saw me looking at it, he looked at me and he smiled. He said, "This is why I'm doing the trial. He is why I'm doing all of this. To ensure Bryson can live the normal life that I never had." Though we've been fighting to find a cure since Dylan was diagnosed, Bryson's diagnosis has rejuvenated a spark in our family. He gives us hope and a reason to push on. He is Dylan's inspiration and his reason to fight even harder. It is no longer just about him. We fight so Bryson and other young patients won't have to remember what living with CF is like, and older patients like Dylan to live longer and healthier lives. I'm involved with this organization for very personal reasons. You have found it in your heart to help the foundation accomplish its goals. It's my hope that you will be here one day soon as the CF Foundation celebrates a job well done. And you can say, "I had part in that." Tonight we are raising money for research to find a cure for people like my little brother Dylan and Bryson, because I couldn't imagine my life without them. Thank you for what you have done and what you are continuing to do. It is because of people like you it gives us hope for a brighter tomorrow. And because of that, you are also my heroes. Thank you.